I guess we've all spent some time watching on YouTube some really gripping will it start video where some fella will talk about, struggles he has getting his lawnmower to start after spending a week in the garage. So I figured today we might do something a little bit more Oz Armour style, and that's will a 38 litre V12 diesel start, and not just an engine sitting out on the ground because that'd be way too easy, but one fitted to our lovely SU-100 tank destroyer. This one's been on my to-do list since I think probably 2024, and here we are, a third of the way into 2026, so sort of running to plan, I guess. So how do you start with something like this? Well, like everything that's huge and indigestible, I guess you've got to break it up into some sort of bite-sized bits and pieces. So this is something you don't get to see every day. These are the individual suspension stations for the Christie suspension. You can see that the batteries have been ratted out of this thing for something else. There we go, it's squeezing ourselves into the driver's position. Very reminiscent of T34, except it's an extra layer of misery for the driver. The gear shift has been relocated to between your legs. Clutch sort of feels like it's working. Accelerator feels like it's working. Gear shift does absolutely nothing at all, which is probably on brand. It is a T34 after all, so let's get into it. First things first, I can see the track's incredibly loose on this side. They do have a little panel which is built into the front plate. Righto, Dave. That's it. Just stand back and I'll knock the plate out.
Yeah.
Well, we won't be putting that bolt back in. As always, start off with giving everything a good spritz. It's a good question for the viewers. Anyone knows a brand of these plastic spray bottles that seem to tolerate WD-40 or CRC, because these things are bloody hopeless. Alright. This is mainly rust and neglect. It's an idea of the thickness of the frontal armour that they make up this plug to go in there so it doesn't affect the integrity of it too much. And there's the adjuster deep in there. It's definitely moving, isn't it?
Yeah.
Pretty easily.
So it's just starting to get a little bit tighter.
Tight, yep. A bit more. Just moved 2 teeth on the adjustment, and if you have a look at the track, it's got that better shape on it and it's no longer sagging over the road wheels, so I think that's pretty well spot on. Pins missing out of the traverse mechanisms, and also the travel lock is not installed.
Right here.
With that pin in there, the mechanism for adjusting the traverse is safe. And one more crossed off the list. Beautiful. Right, so that's the travel lock. You definitely don't want the gun flopping around. So this is the fill port for the oil tank. Now this is something sensible. Somebody decided to replace it with just a light duty tin plate. I definitely approve of that. Seems to be quite a bit of weird and wacky stuff floating on the top. I'll use this conveniently located stick. So I'd say maybe the tank is about third full. This might be good enough to get the thing running on, and then we might give her an oil change. All things being equal, the level of the oil should be the same in both tanks because they're joined together, which it is. So it means that the interconnect is working properly. I want to give the fuel filter a service, but to get to that I'm going to have to take this cover off here. Make sure it doesn't fall off and hurt me. There we go. Now, for those of you interested, this isn't actually the injector pump. This is actually a air manifold for an air start system that all of this Soviet stuff has. That's the fuel filter. I certainly don't want to start the engine without having a bit of a look-see in there in case it's all full of water and other unmentionables. It's gonna oh, look, it's handy. It's been glued in too. Right, let's see if we can get this thing off. That's it. The fuel that's in here smells exactly like oil-based house paint. Something new. Haven't seen this before. These fuel filters are made up of like a multi-layered material sandwiched together, but it's normally a series of really beautifully made discs with spaces and things like this, but this is sort of a bit cruder the way that it's all stuck together like this. Yeah, it doesn't smell like diesel anymore. There's a little bit of crud in the bottom of it, and there was a selection of iron filings and metal swarf and other stuff like that, but all things considered, not too bad. So I think this one will be okay once I drain out the rest of this crappy fuel out of it and refresh it with some brand new, very expensive fuel. I think we'll be in business. But that's the fuel filler port, so let's get this thing out. Looks like somebody had a few vodkas for breakfast perhaps before they hacked out this hole as a fill port. Yes, I can't even get a block socket on the thing. It does have a gauze in it, so that's one thing. Yeah, so it's a bit thirsty, so going on this, depending on what fuel tanks are hooked up, it's got less than 10 litres of fuel in it. Tank looks quite clean inside. Maybe we're okay. Right, I've drained the fuel tank, put some fresh fuel in, but first it's like taking your puppy to the vet. It's time to give it its shots. So what this is a preventative treatment to help stop bacterial outbreaks in fuel systems. Oh, I spilt some. Glad I'm not a professional fuel refiller. Sometime later, fuel filter and everything's all in. Leak proof, I think. So now we've got to bleed the fuel system. This thing here is the air bleed port. What I've got to do is draw fuel from the tank, fill up the filter and displace all the air out of the filter housing. Then I'll close that up, work the priming pump further so it starts to pump fresh fuel through the injector pump, and then there's another bleed port at the back that we'll do later. Because I'm doing this single-handedly, I'm going to be depending on you guys to shout out when the fuel comes out, so give me a holler when it fills up. I can hear it pushing air. Oh! That's exciting. Nice. What we're looking for is a bit of a consistent stream of fluid coming out, which it seems to be. Don't go off and make a cup of coffee or grab a beer from the fridge yet. We're far from over. That's a really unfortunate sound, isn't it? Now we'll grab a few containers of water and start filling the cooling system up. Looking at the residue, it's going to be wall-to-wall rust. So I think it's going to be a case of running the engine for a while with some flush through it to try and clean out some of the rust and scale. And then we drain it a few times before putting some corrosion inhibitor in there so that it stops it from rusting and degrading further. But before we do that, we've got a little job to do on the water pump, which I learned from the last couple of T34s I did that's very important. These things have a greasing system which is charged with grease and under pressure, so it holds the seals apart to keep the water pump sealed up. Before I put any water in it, I can tell that this spring-loaded gauge is not really sitting out far enough, so it tells me that there's not quite enough grease in there. Yes, so that's another indication that there's not enough grease in the system, because if it was charged up properly and I took this out, it would extrude grease out of there like toothpaste. Don't know if you can see it, but if you watch the plunger in the automatic greaser, it's actually starting to come out, which is a very good sign. Yeah, so if you've got a spare Sunday afternoon and you're not using your T34, check your automatic greaser for the water pump. About as much as will go in. But that's excellent. I'm sure there's a small but important subset of our viewers that really enjoy a bit of water pouring action. So there you go. Okay. I come prepared with multiple buckets, thinking that's going to take a fair bit to fill it up, but it doesn't look like it. So I think I'll have a go at starting it the way it is. I've gone ahead and installed this sort of science project of pipes and wires and a fuse and a switch with an external fuel reservoir. Obviously a little pump like this wouldn't be enough if the thing was running at full noise. because it is after all a 38 litre V12, but for testing purposes like this it's going to be perfectly good to do what we need it to do. Neutral, so let's start with priming the oil system. So we'll watch for that gauge there to move. Let's go. It's a real smoker, this one. The lubricating oil's going straight past the piston rings and the pistons and flying out the exhaust system. So right at the beginning of the video I posed an existential question, will it start? And I'm happy to say that yes, we got the bugger to start. We had a fan of the museum in the channel, Anya Neal, you're a legend. Stopped by with some pre-chilled ones. So cheers and have a good weekend.